Welcome back. This is the second half of our newspaper review. We're looking at alliances and impeachments. Right here, we've been talking about some of the possibilities as far as the by-elections are concerned this month. We'll also be weighing into what's happening in the coastal region as well, with the clamor that it seems for a new political vehicle for them to move forward. Very pertinent panel taking us through that particular discussion. In studio, I have Baringo Women's Rep, Honorable Gladwell Teriot with us in studio. Joining the conversation via video link, we have Gabriel Muthuma and Millie Luanga as well coming in this particular discussion. Even as we move it forward, we'll be jumping into what has been bandied around in terms of impeachments or not. But let's finish up with this talk of alliances as they stand. Honorable Gladwell, some people are saying this whole aspect of what the handshake has brought, and with it, the sense that in a certain area, we decide we shall not field a candidate, you shall field a candidate. What happens to the spirit of democracy within the party? For those who really wanted to vie, they're not getting the best man or woman for the job because it was decided at a boardroom somewhere.
Jeff, in politics, we also have something called negotiated democracy. Mm-hmm. And this is what is being applied. Mm-hmm. In the spirit that maybe in the near future, these people can come to agreement and make a coalition. So there's those basics that they start with. Mm-hmm. That is that negotiated democracy. Kindly don't field a candidate here. And if you have already fielded, let's agree. This candidate may be offered something to really compensate for what he has lost, time and money. And maybe a promise of one or two things.
Right.
So that the other candidate, and they weigh. Mm-hmm. Within the principles and the parties that are agreeing, they weigh whose candidate is more stronger.
Right.
So if it is KANU, for example, they say, okay, let's leave that area for KANU. Mm-hmm. If it is ANC, they say the same. Right. And so there's negotiated democracy, and in that process, they are working towards doing something, which I think in future can be a coalition or an alliance.
Right.
So it's a beginning and a tough one.
Right.
Some people must make some sacrifices because it's not easy. Sometimes you're making a move that maybe your people are not also happy with.
Right.
And it can hurt politically. But with the time, as we mold this coalition that probably might come, we have to make some few sacrifices here and there.
Okay, let's talk about that possibility as well, because many analysts, we've also had politicians talking about the possible formation of a really super alliance, and the handshake could bring that to be. And some people just see that as talking about Jubilee and ODM forming what would be a super alliance moving forward. What do you think politically is a possibility of that move being played?
Jeff, it is not very easy to really start guessing what might happen because, you see, there's still some war in front there.
Right.
And as we continue working on BBI, we know there are some 5 positions, strong positions at top there. And so when these men, because they are all men for now, when they sit together, it will depend so much on the agreement, on who is taking what, that can give them the chance to be together.
Right.
But at times, you may realize, maybe I want to be the president, and also the fellow coalition partner to be also wants it, and we are not agreeing on who to step for another person. And so in the process, we don't form an alliance, and we are like, let everybody go his way.
Right.
Let's meet there.
Right.
So it's not yet time to start thinking that this thing has gone the way we are seeing. It is a process of doing a formation.
Right.
It is not yet there. Because until they really agree on what one wants. And I think what will shape us more and faster is this BBI. Because you see, the BBI has more positions that can make these people relent and agree faster than other than when we only had a president as a core seat. So for now, the coalition will form faster because the positions are much more than before.
Right.
So to me, BBI will really be the key to these formations.
Okay.
And what I'm happy with in this BBI, Jeff, is that at least, at long last, we will have an official opposition leader sitting in the House. So we will have little disturbance as far as elections are concerned, post-elections are concerned. Because you see, from time to time I've been telling people, it is never possible for a country to ignore a second runners-up person in presidential election. Because if the president wins, for example, by 10 million votes, and then the loser or the second person garners 8 million votes, you can't ignore that person.
Right.
He has such a following, and you can't keep him just at bay. He has to be involved in things of this country, or else the country will crack into two. And so this BBI might help us solve some of these problems, because the checks and balances will be done within a government and with ex officio members of the executive, such that this person has a responsibility and an official responsibility, that they don't just walk on the streets, make noise day in, day out. We spend so much money smoking them out here and there. It will bring, because what we need most as Kenyans, common mwananchi, what they need is their peace to continue with their daily duties.
And Honorable Gladwell, we've had that particular position as far as why we need to adopt the BBI. But also the counter question to that is, okay, fine, we've seen this happen with experience with two leaders. What if we have a number 3 who's just as belligerent, goes to the streets, won't give any peace because he feels that the election didn't go his way? Do we amend it again and create a third position for this person, or this particular possibility? What happens then? You
see, now it is so clear. It is so clear, even in our elections as MPs, the person that matters so much after election is the person who really followed you in that election. That people look at, because has more following than number 3. And when we have this cutoff, the third person, yes, might be saying, oh, I almost won, but it might not be as serious as the person who is in number 2 and closer to the winner. Okay. But what I'm saying is, we might not use BBI to solve everything at once. These amendments are done now. There will be others to be done later by other generations. Okay. And the people who really sat, where I am also one of the contributors of this BBI, is we are trying to look at a way of at least reducing these animosities, these post-election problems. And when I hear people saying, when we employ a prime minister, where do you think we should get this money? I also pose a question and say, where do we get this money to be running, to be keeping security, running after people day and in, day out? How do you value lives that are normally lost after every election? It is all money still. Okay. Here that I want us to move this forward. I think we have Gabriel Muthuma back online. Gabriel, if you can hear me, I want us to move to what we are seeing right now as far as the coast and what's going on there with Raila and Kingi not seeing eye to eye as far as whether the coast should have a political outfit or stay within ODM. We've seen Odinga pay close attention to this particular area and try and dissuade them from going this particular way. Is this personal because he knows this has been ostensibly his power base? Why? Why the close attention to the coast from the former PM?
Jeff, Pwani Party is loading, and I think that has been the discussion on the ground. Well, you see, here we have to be quite honest. Governor Amason Kingi brought some things to the fore that were quite not only disingenuous. He brought some of the things that many people at the coast have actually been trying to communicate with other leaders, you know, in the country. And what Amason was talking about is that he mentioned certain parties and actually went on to match them with their areas of representation. He did that about ANC. He did that about Ford Kenya. He did that about Wiper. And he would go and tell you they are known based on where they come from. And then he says, what is wrong with Coast doing the very same thing? Now, there has been rumors for quite some time that they were looking to forming their own party. You see, there was a meeting just the other day at Samoja's house in Taita Taveta, where Joho and the other Coast governors went, and they had a meeting, and they also talked about joining forces to come up with a Coast party. Now, there has been an issue where people say that Coast belongs to a certain party. And I think that is where the rain started, the rain started beating us in matters formulating a coast party. You may recall just the other day the concluded seat or the concluded by-election that we had in Msambweni. ODM actually had selected a candidate based on what my good friend has just talked about, negotiated democracy. It did not work because the people had the final say. So as much as we are trying to corner people in one end, they have started understanding that, wait a minute, if all these other people can have their own individual parties, what is wrong with the coast having their own parties? No. Now, will I be among the people who subscribe to such a notion? As much as we agree it is their democratic right to have their own party, Jeff, I've always called for this country to have, at the very least, just two major parties, just like the way they run democracy in the US, where you have the Democrats and the Republicans. That is how you build stronger parties, because many people who do not have the chance to build parties, they'll be joining a party based on their ideology and what they share about in that party. So the problem with us having smaller parties, you know what, Jeff? We are going back to where we are coming from. The smaller parties, which are not just parties but tribal groupings. That is what you do not want in a country like Kenya, where we have a very extended democracy. On the other hand, if we are going to talk about BBI and this parading of leaders, then again we are going to lose, because you know what? We are going to be basing BBI and what it portends and what it carries to just identifying key leaders to these upper echelon positions. I don't want us to do that. Let us talk about how BBI is going to strengthen devolution, because they are in, Jeff. That is why we went with devolution, because devolution said we are going to take over power from the top and actually come and bring it to mashinani. Try as much as possible to tease out that great power up there and bring it to the people. Now, if that is what we are going to, if that's the rule that we are going to play with, then Kenyans are going to understand, and it's going to be better for all of us. But if we are still going to show that, you know what, there's still so much power up there, then we are going to lose it. Let us have the say of the people who are in mashinani, having extended and superior service, such that at the end of the day, nobody, and I pray we come to that one day, that nobody will care who is leading Ukoju. Everybody will be concerned with who is taking care of my local school, who is taking care of our local hospitals, who is taking care of our local economy, what is our own source of revenue going to be as a county. That is the discussion that I want BBI to be able to solve.
Honorable Gladwell, I'll come to you on this, because we are seeing a former PM really trying to dissuade these leaders at the coast with the position they are probably wanting to take. Do you think he'll be successful with that particular mission, get them back on board? Because all of these were his lieutenants before thinking of going in this direction. Does it bring them back to the fold?
Yeah, the former PM, of course, like anybody else, you won't let what you've been having just go like that. He has a feeling that actually for a long time, he's been actually the sole party which is selling in the coast region. And you know, losing that means a lot to him. And you don't know whether this new party that shall be formed shall go your direction or shall change, move, and your purported votes which are there might be swayed to another direction. And so his fears are right. And he has, I don't see anything wrong in him fighting it. And if he wins the fight, better for him. But of course, as coastarians, they also feel like any other region in this country, like he puts like, we don't need actually to have tribal parties. But in Kenya, we are not yet there. Because if you see parties currently, they are regionalized. I think the only party which is seemingly national is KANU, as long as it is silent, as far as it is silent, but it is everywhere. But most of these parties are isolated to certain regions. And Jubilee, of course, tried, because Jubilee actually reached everywhere else in Kenya. And of course, somehow again the fights in it is making some people who are allied to it, or some people who had actually liked it, to start again withdrawing, like, wait a moment, what is happening in Jubilee? Or is Jubilee dying? So if you look at Nyanza like, has its own party, right, because ODM is the sole party that is actually based there. Wiper in the eastern part of Kenya, and then URP, which went and now has come as UDA, will be very sellable so much in Rift Valley than any other part of Kenya, because of the person who actually is the principal of the party, purported. So the Coastarians feel like, I think they have been empty for too long, and they want to have something of their own so that they can have also some bargaining power.
Right.
And so those years when we will reach, when democracy is well built, will be like America, where there are only two parties.
Okay.
You are either Democratic or
Republican. Okay.
So for now, it is up to the PM to try and stop this or gag or do whatever thing to
Right.
just continue being the person to watch in Coast region.
Okay.
But otherwise, I don't see anything wrong. This is politics.
Okay, it is politics, and maybe I'll come to you on that as well, because as you can see, and as Honorable Gladwell has put it, there's a lot to, in terms of perception, he could lose if this particular party is formed and moves forward. What play does he have with Governor Kingi, Governor Joho, all of these who are feeling they want to go a different path? How does he bring them back into ODM and make them feel that this is where they belong and not the Pwani party that, as Gabi said, is loading?
Well, I think that it is apparent that the talk within the coastal region seems to be gaining momentum by the day, but it is also apparent, and it is expected, that the former Prime Minister is going to continue to want to build his party, which is one of the longest surviving, strongest political parties that we have in the country as at now. In fact, it would have been very strange if he did not fight to keep them within the party and have them agree to go out and form other coalitions and come back in. I think that maybe you may find with negotiations going down the line that they may be able to get more space. They already have quite a senior position within the ODM party. If we have to focus on ODM party for now, they do already have a focal point, because Governor Joho is a deputy party leader, if I remember correctly, and that is relatively senior. But they may be able to still bargain to ensure that they have more senior positions. We know that this is how political alliances are formed, with people negotiating for more space when they show their discontent. So it will be an interesting conversation that I do not think is going to end in the near future. But again, before I lose the thought, I think that it is something we cannot underplay, the importance and the value, that the need for us to have alliances and for us to jostle and fight within political parties and within alliances is a major plus for Kenya, because it recognizes the fact that we are a diverse nation. And if you're to find space, you must find space with people who are willing to accommodate you. And that means that we are building the cohesion agenda, where we want to remain united with our different interests at play. Okay. So I do not think that it is a conversation that breaks down the countries, but it is a conversation that continues to build the unity that we are striving to continue to build 50 years plus post-independence. So it's an interesting thing to watch, and we want to see how the coast will emerge, whether much stronger or not at the end of these discussions within the political parties that they currently seem to favor. Okay,
I want us to move it forward. We are at the tail end of this particular conversation. Very quickly, I want to touch on the threat of impeachment that is usually given but not followed through. We have a new deputy SG in Jubilee, Joshua Kutuni, stepping in and saying he will not hesitate to endorse this particular impeachment. But the former deputy SG said they're talking tough but won't be able to do it. They don't have the numbers. Politics is a numbers game. Gladwell, do you think they can walk the talk and take this to the House in terms of impeaching the deputy president?
I must say, nothing is impossible. In a legislative house, as long as things are done procedurally, it can easily come to the floor of the house. And the story of saying there are no numbers, nobody risks about this thing, because at the moment when something is being executed in the house, suddenly you wonder where numbers come from. But I want to put it if it were me, in my own opinion, I don't think it's the right thing to do. If the opponents of the deputy president actually in the coming presidential elections actually want to compete with him, I think it will be cowardice of them to impeach him, because by so doing, you're actually rewarding him more with more votes, because you will create some sympathy from Kenyans, and like, why are you doing this? And so for me, and presidency, of course, is what is constitutionalized, such that separating the two might not work. And unless otherwise stated, it must remain. However much that we can see a lot of drift and rift in between the two, they have to stay together in thick and...
like a marriage.
Yes. They'll swallow the bitter pill, continue together, they finish the journey together, take us where we are to reach after their tenure. Then we discuss other things in the years coming. That's my take. But I can tell you, in Parliament, you cannot underscore anything. And members of Parliament have independence. And as long as the Speaker agrees to it because it is done procedurally, it can come to the floor of the House. So the former SG of Jubilee should not actually beg so much on numbers, because numbers can be found.
Wow, okay. Gabriel, I'll bring you in on this. We have 3 minutes to go before we wind this up, so please be brief with your comment as well. Before all of this happened, we had a meeting in Karen. We had around 140 MPs who came out and said that from where they stand, they'll be working in the House as a group, as a unit, and that's a display of the numbers they have at that point. Do you think this can go to the floor of the House, the impeachment of the DP?
Well, Jeff, there are two things when you talk about such a motion. One is who introduces that motion. Last time we had it was Ayub Savula, and the SG of Jubilee came and said, you know what, that's not in our agenda. We don't even not thinking about it, because really it has to be that an impeachment is not just something you wake up and say you're going to impeach the person of the deputy president. And I've said this time and again, there is a strategy that must follow. What do you want to achieve at the end of the day? And if that really you're just going to play politics with it, then I think it is best you abandon that move. This is not the best time. Strategically is not the best idea. We just started talking a while ago about how we are looking, or how the country is moving with speed to ensure that we have as much vaccine for COVID as possible. You're also looking at the president, who has said he's going to move and work with lightning speed to ensure that he completes most of the projects that he initiated. That is number two. You have a BBI that needs to go to a referendum in June. That's the other thing. By the way, come August, September, the country will already be in pure campaign mode for 2022. Do you really want to start looking for time and numbers to start impeaching the deputy president? Strategically, that is not the best thing to do. So is this something that can be done? I've had, the likes of somebody like the deputy party of Jubilee, David Morada, saying that something of that nature is loading. But from where I'm seated, strategically, that is the wrong thing to do at this point. Is it possible? Yes, it is possible. Is it doable at this point? I don't think there's anybody who will give it the time of day.
Okay. Millie, I'll have you in on this. We have a minute as we wind this up. Same question to you right now. We've had that talk for quite a while within the Jubilee leadership. Do you think we get to a point where we actually have this particular position where we have the deputy president impeached on the floor of the House?
I think it would be a perfect thing if that process was initiated. And I say this because we need to inculcate a culture of political discipline and manners amongst our leadership. The country has been bogged down with talk of a deputy president who seems to be going the other direction from the president. We are tired of the president appearing to be unable to control the House. He has once or twice given directives that don't seem to be followed by even other arms or other departments within the executive. Take an example of the KEMSA investigations that he directed should be ended within a certain time and a report produced, and we still continue to wait. So it would be important for people to begin to have the conversation as to how should you behave. I mean, even within a simple setting as in a house, if the children do not listen to the maid will tell you, I'm frustrated, I cannot work because nobody's listening to me or taking directions. So at that level of national leadership, we need to have some discipline and some order so that from that level we can see the sanity. And it would be important, even if it fails or even if it is dropped halfway, but it would be important for people to know that it can be done so that we have some political sobriety at the top level within this country.
Okay, I think that's where we'll wind up this particular conversation at that particular point. Thank you so much, Millie Luanga, Gabriel Muthuma, governance experts. Thanks for joining us via video link on this conversation. Asante sana for your time this morning. And in studio, Honorable Gladwell Cheruiyot, Women's Rep Barengo, thank you so much for making time to be on the show. As always, looking forward to plenty more engagement right here. As for you, keep those tweets coming in. You can get me at I am Jeff Mote or K24 TV. We take a short break at this point in time. When we're back after the break, we get interactive. Don't go too far.